there, it's Tamara Doris, your Sacramento real estate professional and your Sacramento real estate professor. And today I'm going to talk about something that is kind of taboo as far as discussing in public, and it's about commissions. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a background, but I want to be really clear in saying that I'm not going to state numbers or amounts, and I'm going to totally avoid words like standard and normal and regular, because that seems to be a contributing factor in a huge lawsuit. So if you're not in the real estate industry, you may not know anything about the big National Association of Realtors lawsuit and all the franchises that paid millions and millions of dollars just to settle out of court, because the auditing part would just be horrendous on so many companies and franchises because so many agents have made the mistake. What is the mistake? Well, I'm not an attorney and I'm not giving legal advice. Okay, I'm a realtor for 30 years and I'm a real estate professor. So I'm telling you from that perspective, and I'm not promoting anything one way or the other. But what I am saying is, in the state of California, real estate commissions are negotiable by law. I always tell my students that question is going to be on the DRE exam at least 3 or 4 times. Real estate commissions are negotiable by law. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to know, whether you're a seller or a buyer. What was happening before, and when I say before, I mean the entire time since the time I got my license in my 20s, at the very end of 1989, so that was a long time ago, all the way through until this lawsuit. What was standard was that sellers paid the buyer's agent's commission. And the truth of the matter is, real estate commissions have always been negotiable by law. But agents who grew up like I did, just telling sellers, well, the seller pays it, it was a big mistake. That's not accurate. And so many agents did it. Like I said, so many franchises know all of their agents were doing that they did not even want to go to trial or be audited. That would be a nightmare. So they just settled out of court. So what is it like now? A couple of things came out of that big lawsuit, and it was at least, what was it, a 1 year or 2 year lawsuit? It was a lot. But let me tell you what it's like now, so whether you're a buyer or a seller, you understand. There is now a new law that when a buyer works with a real estate agent, they have to sign a buyer's agent's representation form. And what that means is, if I'm your agent and you sign this form, then you're stating, whether it's for one property or for 6 months, you get to decide that I'm the agent that's working for you, and that you understand that if there is no commission being paid by the seller, that you would be responsible for the commission. Now, when I say one house or 6 months, what I mean by that is agents are not allowed to show even one property to a prospective buyer without having this form signed. So I'm not going, if someone calls me and says, I'd love to see this house down the street, will you take me to see it? I would just do a buyer's BAC form for that property. I'm not going to say, okay, well, you have to promise you're going to work with me for 6 months, because maybe they just want to see that property. But by golly, if I'm getting up and going to show them that property and they're going to write an offer on it, it needs to be with me. So that's kind of something that's been a long time coming, and I think it's really fair. But let's talk about the commission piece of it. Many buyers are just scraping to get their down payment and their closing cost. In fact, a lot of them ask for closing costs as part of the deal. So they don't have the extra money to pay a $10,000 commission. What happens? What happens if you find a house that you love and the sellers aren't paying the commission? Well, either you don't get that house or you come up with a way to pay for it. Now, there have been rumors that eventually they'll fold it into the loan for the buyers and things like that, but I don't see any movement in that direction at this point. Here's the bottom line if you're a seller. Real estate fees, commissions are negotiable by law, and you do not have to pay the buyer's agent's representation. But based on what I just told you, that buyers don't have the funds usually or often, then what you're actually doing is letting your house sit on the market a lot longer. So here's what I normally tell my sellers. And this is just part of, I have one package. I don't offer, I'll do this basic service or I'll add on this. I don't do a la carte. I have one basic structure for how I do my listings. And I used to do it where, okay, I won't do that and then I'll charge a lower fee. And it got really confusing. And at the end of the day, after 30 years in this industry, I know what sells houses for the fastest, in the best time range, with the least stress. And it has to be my full service package. That's true to me. And that's how I know I can best serve my clients. So what I do is I say, here's what my fee is. But then I warn the sellers. I say, when we get an offer, because now in the residential purchase agreement, there is a line that says sellers to pay buyer's agent's commission, and the agent fills it in. And so what I normally tell them is this is absolutely optional. But if you decide not to pay the buyer's agent's commission, at least part of it, then we're going to be sitting here for a long time. And all my fast sale guarantees are out the window, because that means I have to find a buyer who is going to be able to afford to pay the buyer's agent's commission. Okay, so if that's the situation, you're not going to sell your house in a month. You might not sell your house in 6 months. And I'm not saying that as any way to, to threaten or to warn. I'm just saying that is what the current situation is. So what I normally do is I tell my seller, here's my fee. And then I let them know the buyer is going to present an offer through their agent. And on that form, they're probably, I'm going to say 98% probably, going to ask you to pay a certain fee. Here's what I would recommend that you pay. If they ask for over that, we can counter them. You see, so as the seller, you have control of the transaction to that degree. Now, don't worry, because it changes hands the minute that we get the inspections, and the buyers who have the money to purchase your home, who are getting the loan to purchase your home, they kind of have the upper hand in what they're going to request for repairs. But then it goes back to you in deciding, do I want to pay for those repairs, or are we going to negotiate, right? So it's never a full seller's market or a full buyer's market. Each seller and buyer have a different role that they play, and they each have the upper hand at one point or another, usually. So as the seller, when your agent says, this is my fee, and hopefully they've paid attention to the lawsuits and they're very familiar with the new laws, they will explain to you, but the buyer's agent will ask for a fee. And you get to decide, one, if you want to pay it, two, if you want to counter what they're asking for. And I always recommend that you be negotiable on that, because again, if you have a beautiful, strong offer and the other agent is asking for, a couple percent or whatever, I don't want to quote numbers, it's not that big of a deal versus not paying anything and having to leave your house on the market for 6 months, right? I mean, that's not how I work. There are buyers out there who are willing to pay the commission, but it's not the common thing. That's not the common thing that I'm seeing. So in that respect, the seller gets to decide, and there's all sorts of loopholes, and I'm not going to get into all the loopholes because I don't want to make myself legally liable for anything. But I just want you to know, if you're a seller, it's probably in your best interest to be willing to pay at least part of the buyer's agent's commission. Probably. Okay, I'm not going to say hands down, but I'm going to say if you're in a hurry to sell your house, or you want to sell it in this century, you probably want to be negotiable on that part. And as a buyer's agent, I think it's important that buyer's agents inform and educate their buyers, but also they say, the seller may not pay my fee, and I don't work for free. So if they pay like this much, but this is my minimum, are you going to be able to come up with it? And if the buyer says, no, absolutely not, then as the agent, you have to gently, professionally, honestly tell them, then there's going to be a number of houses that we can't even look at, that you don't even want to see, because if they're not going to pay my fee, then they're rejecting both of us at the same time. And I know that sounds really harsh, but it's the cold reality of what's going on in the industry right now. Okay, so I want to leave you with this. Real estate commissions in the state of California are negotiable by law. And I say the state of California because it's California laws I'm familiar with as a real estate professor, but I am also involved in several large national groups through Facebook, through social media, through networking. So I speak to agents in every state in the country often, and this law is prevalent all the way around. Real estate commissions are negotiable by law in every single state in the US of A, and they have this same responsibility to disclose and to educate, and the whole 9 yards. So hopefully you found this helpful. I don't see enough agents talking about it, and it's because of this lawsuit. Everyone is like scared. What do we say? So that's not me. I want to be really honest and frank with you and let you know what's going on. And I keep up on the laws, the rules, the regulations, and it's really important that I share that with you so you go into your real estate transaction, whether you're buying or selling, fully educated. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye for now.